President of the Bismarck School Board. It's 5:15 on a Wednesday, April 15th, so a little different night for us. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to those of you who are joining us both here and also online. You can find our agenda and follow along under the School Board tab at bismarckschools.org. Dr. Scher, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hager?
Here.
Mr. Eastgate?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Peterson?
Here.
Ms. Presky?
Here.
All board members are accounted for. Ms. Presky's calling in. She's out on a work assignment. With that, Dr. Fosnot, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1C, BPS mission, vision, and values. The BPS mission is to empower every learner to thrive. The BPS vision states together, our relationships build inclusive, collaborative, and innovative environments that create agency and inspire a passion for learning, excellence, and discovery. BPS values are inclusion, excellence, innovation, leadership. You'll also find a link in the agenda to the BPS strategic plan. Item 2 is to adopt the agenda. What are the wishes of the board?
President Hager, I would motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll second. Oh.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. Dr. Scher.
Eastgate?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Presky?
Yes.
Hager?
Yes. Item 3 is focus on success. Tonight, mathematics in the classroom. Dr. Fosnot.
Yeah, good afternoon, board members. Thanks for joining us on this wonderful Wednesday. And I'd like to introduce, to bring to the podium, Ms. Karen Arnold from our LDI team, and she'll be introducing the members of BPS. They'll be presenting on, mathematics in the classroom. Good evening, Ms. Arnold.
Good evening, President Hager and board members. My name is Karen Arnold, and I'm a part of the Learning Design and Innovation team for Bismarck Public Schools. And I have the honor of introducing 2 amazing elementary educators this evening. First, I would like to introduce Chandra Henderson, who is a part of Dorothy Moses Elementary School, where she teaches second grade, and she's been doing it for 6 years. And she's also been in education for a total of 11 years. I also have the pleasure of introducing Veronica Kleppe, who has been teaching first grade at Sunrise Elementary for a total of 4 years. Not only do these educators spend time in their schools supporting students and families in the opportunity to thrive in Bismarck Public Schools, but they also spend time helping other educators in the guiding coalitions. And so both of these individuals have the opportunity to speak to you tonight because of their work in the guiding coalitions. And so they have both been a part of that work, Chandra for 4 years and Veronica for 3 years. And so I could go on and on about their amazing work that they do as educators, but I'm going to let their students speak for that work here tonight.
Okay, so I knew this was 5, and I knew this was 9, so I knew it would be 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tens, and then 9 ones.
This
and then
is 3 parts of a shape. It would be a third because there's 3 parts. And then since there's 2 parts in this place, there's only 2 parts, so that would be called halves. And then there's 4 parts in this one, so then it would be a fourth.
Something we focus on in Guiding Coalition is the importance of alignment. With the rollout of new standards, although we teach all standards, we know it's not feasible to formally assess all standards, so that's where prioritization comes in. So as a guiding coalition, we go through a prioritization process with each standard. We pulled standards apart and we determine which are most essential to formally assess. This work is the foundation of what Guiding Coalition does, digging into standards, unpacking them to create a deeper meaning, and then helping bring that clarity back to our buildings and team members for more aligned and intentional instruction.
Another importance of alignment piece is the assessment creation and the building of the assessment banks across the district. So we started by really using our proficiency scales that you see here to help build those assessment banks and guide everything that we did at the Guiding Coalition level. The scales helped clearly define what the students needed to know and be able to do at each level. And from there, we worked on creating those assessments to be able to assess those students and creating the banks that teachers are able to access across the district. And that just allows teachers to use the same resources rather than creating everything on their own. And we also spent the time updating the old assessments as well as creating new ones that aligned to the new proficiency skills that we had selected as most important. And that just helps ensure that we're measuring what we're teaching and that it's consistent across all schools and classrooms. Overall, the work has made assessments more clear, aligned, and supportive for all teachers across the district, while also helping us better meet the needs of the students.
One of the most valuable pieces of our work is the ongoing feedback loops that we have. Teachers are utilizing the assessments and the scales that we create as Guiding Coalition teams in their classrooms, and then they're given the opportunity to provide Guiding Coalition with feedback. What is working, what isn't working, and where some adjustments might need to be made. That feedback then comes back to Guiding Coalition teams, and then we're able to go revise and improve scales and assessments so that they make more sense and are but more realistic in classrooms.
On our next slide, we just have a little video example of how we use the proficiency scales with our students to show that progression of learning throughout a unit.
Yesterday, we took a look at this, and yesterday we worked really hard for that level 2. Okay? If you had a level 2 yesterday, how many checks did we see in the boxes? 2. Today, our goal is to get a level 3. You can show Mrs. Kleppy how to make a number using 10s and 1s. Okay? If you are at a level 3 and get the other check mark, you are showing Mrs. Kleppy that you can break a number apart by 10s and 1s, okay? Okay. Describe the shares using halves, thirds, fourths, half of, and a fourth of. Okay, what's the second task we have to be able to do, Oliver? Good. Partition circles and rectangles into 2, 3, or 4 equal shares. Let's break this apart. What does this term partition mean? Can you all say that? Partition one more time. If we have to partition something or look at something that is partitioned, what does that mean? Janae? We're going to break it into parts. Okay. Now how about this term back here, equal shares? What is that telling me? Annie?
It's telling you like it's equal. All the shapes are equal.
How we divide our partition has to be the same for each piece. Okay.
Being on Guiding Coalition has helped me grow as a teacher overall. I feel a lot more confident in planning intentional instruction because of the understanding that I have of standards and exactly what I want students to learn. It has helped me better understand what mastery looks like, that level 3, that level 4, and how I can assess it in a meaningful way. I've become more intentional about differentiating as well and thinking about how I can meet the needs of all my students in the classroom. And using student data has also become more natural for me, and I feel much more confident using that data to guide my next instructional steps. Guiding Coalition has given me a better understanding of standards overall, and has made me a more reflective and purposeful teacher.
And as I reflect on my time in Guiding Coalition, overall, it has just made my work more clear, focused, and data-driven. I've created a stronger understanding of the standards through my Guiding Coalition work, which has also helped gain more confidence in my teaching abilities. I've been using the assignments or the assessments that are aligned with where we are in a unit, as well as the proficiency scales to help assess where students are at, and then be able to make my next steps for instruction based on that as well. And to wrap up, we just have a little video of a few final thoughts from our students.
When she do it first, and then we go and practice by ourselves. And that I love my teacher too.
Your teacher is really nice, and she teaches us really cool things like fractions, times, and she isn't just smart. She is kind and helpful, and she makes me feel smart, and she makes me feel really happy.
Thank you for your time, and we would just open the floor for any questions.
Board members, questions, comments? Mr. Eastgate.
Yeah, thanks, President Hager. Thanks so much for the presentation tonight. Just a couple things, just in general for the guiding coalitions, is that something that's ongoing? Do teachers keep enrolling in that? Is that something you're always a part of?
There's an application process each year, so teachers can apply if interested, and then we do the work.
Awesome. And it's a one-year deal?
Yes, every year the application process comes out for teachers to re-enroll, so you might see some reoccurring teachers on Guiding Coalition as well as some new teachers as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks. It's obvious from hearing from your students, you're not just smart, but you're kind and helpful. Which what a vote of confidence from first and second graders, and it's fun to watch too, because we look at how you're teaching them how to learn, and at the same time, I love seeing the kids, like Ms. Kleppe, I think it was your class, where you're pointing at them, and before you can even get the question out, they're answering the question. And sometimes as adults, we could learn from that because we wait and read the room or whatever, but the kids are just excited to let you know what they've learned from you. So thanks a lot for what you guys are doing. Glad the Coalition seems to be a real good program. Appreciate it.
Mr. Lee.
Thank you, President Hager. Yeah, kind of along the same lines, the guiding coalitions, are they all, are there different coalitions for each grade level, and are they across the district?
I can speak to that work. We have guiding coalitions in pre-K through 12, and we, at the elementary, we have guiding coalitions at the grade level, and then in 6 through 12, we break out into content areas, and so we have the four main content areas, and then when we look to the electives, and they still have guiding coalitions as well, but they might just look a little bit different.
Okay. And then just to follow up on the prioritization process the coalitions have, what does that process look like? I assume it's not this is the top priority, but these are the top priorities. Is that the way to think about it, or?
I can also speak to that as well. I know both of them sat on that prioritization process for math. We work through a system of how we prioritize those math standards, but it's not just based on our gut feeling. We work through a process so that we get the best standards that are going to allow us to assess students, but also teach within a timely manner. And so we have a process that we use with all our standards now so that it's not just based on our gut feeling. feeling. But it's a process, and I don't know if you want to speak to that, because Chandra actually helped lead it for second grade a couple of years ago as the Guiding Coalition lead. I don't know if you want to speak any more to that.
For the prioritizing of the new standards that we got, it was kind of like a rating system. So there were different categories that we had, and then we rated each standard based on those categories. Guiding Coalition members, we broke out into teams as well, so it wasn't just one rating per standard. It was different groups of teachers with different thoughts. And then from there, we took total number of ratings. So the standards that earned the highest ratings are those that became our priority standards. And then throughout the year that we've implemented them, some of those have actually changed, because although those standards got a higher rating, that's not necessarily the feedback that we got or that we felt once we implemented those standards.
Okay, and does this work play into our guaranteed viable curriculum and pacing? I mean, does the work you do, does that have anything to do with the curriculum between elementaries and the pacing you're going at during the year?
So those standards are then aligned to our curricular resources, and so we would take our priority standards and align those to our math curriculum, and then we would pace those out throughout the year. So we have curriculum maps where we've paced out our priority standards aligned to those curricular resources as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting. That's why I had these questions, but thanks for being here tonight.
Mrs. Peterson.
Thanks, ladies, for all of this, and I think they asked some questions that I had as well. But just wondering, in terms of, you talked a lot about some of the positive outcomes of being a part of the Guiding Coalitions. I have kind of a two-parter. One, just wondering if those of your colleagues who are not part of the Guiding Coalition, how does some of this information get shared? Are they also using the assessment? So that's one part of the question. And then, have you seen any increases in kind of like your student results, like since you've now had some of these, more, common assessments and access to these materials? Like, have you seen some increases in math achievement?
So across the district, after every Guiding Coalition meeting day, whether it's a work day or just maybe a half-day work day, an update goes out to that grade level so that everybody across the district is aware of what was worked on, what might be new, and then what they can access. And not only is the feedback loop that she talked about great, because then we're receiving that feedback through that schools across the district are utilizing what we're putting out there for all teachers. So I definitely would say that we're seeing that a lot of teachers across the district are using it, and so that we're hoping across all schools that all students are achieving the same content.
Dr. Fosna.
Well, I don't have a question. I'm going to make a comment about your brilliance. So you can sit if you wish, or you can take this comment standing up. But I've been an educator a long time. I was an elementary educator. And when I started, we were fortunate enough, maybe unfortunate enough, that when I first started teaching math, and many teachers of my generation, you had a book. Someone gave you a text or a guide that would guide you through, and maybe you'd have a couple objectives in it. I was supposed to teach tens place and ones place, and that was what was given to me to teach my fifth graders. I hope people that are watching this see the professionalism and the depth of understanding about learning, teaching and learning that new educators have, young educators have. Because what you just talked about didn't even exist in my world. There was no talk about it. We didn't even have a standard at that time, so that's come. But to talk about taking the width of standards that our educators now in all classes, across all grades, across all subjects, now look at the importance of prioritizing them, because there are things that are the most essential things, are the most important, but then to break that down into, well, what question are we going to ask to make sure that the kid understood what we're asking them to do? And if you noticed in the video, the kids were articulating what they were expected to learn, where my fifth graders just knew, I hope I get the test right. I just hope whatever comes out of Jeff at the end, I get it right. They couldn't articulate every single skill that they were going to be expected to know at the end. And then to have a scale to ensure that, okay, I don't know, I'm going to guess, how many second grade teachers do we have, Mr. Barner, across the district, right? Or first of them, 50 some? So that they actually have a unified scale to say, a kid in this class is doing it to the same level as a kid in this class or in another school, that's to your guaranteed and viable, Mr. Lee. I mean, that is such tremendous work, and I hope people appreciate not only the educators in BPS, but just educators in general today about how brilliant they are and how much better professionals they are in the area of teaching and learning than even we were, I'm going to say, 3 generations ago. I just think you're amazing. That was wonderful. Rock star teachers, thank you for what you do. Wow, that was good. So, well done.
Yeah, thank you all for taking the time to come here and present. That was fun to see. I like the videos, like Mr. Eastgate had pointed out, and one of the comments that stood out to me, because I lived with a math teacher, was that I heard a kid say math is cool, and that has never been uttered in our house. So thank you guys. Item 4 is public comment. The board recognized the central role parents play in the education of their children and supports active parent involvement in the education process. The board's practice of public comment reflects and aligns with policy BCBA and the spirit of its intent. For classroom issues, it's best to follow the chain of command: teacher, principal, assistant superintendent, superintendent. For district issues, please reach out to Dr. Fosnot. If you do speak tonight, we simply ask that you be responsible, be helpful, and be respectful. Our BPS students deserve to have adults model the expectations that we have for them. Groups are urged to select one spokesperson. Individuals will be limited to no more than 4 minutes and will be notified with 30 seconds remaining to conclude their remarks. The board will not debate issues as presented, but will take such matters under advisement. I guess before we open it, do we have anything nothing from last meeting? Okay. With that, please stand and approach the podium if you do wish to speak tonight.
Good evening, President Hager, board members. Tonight I'm here to discuss the agenda item on the bond. It was on both the last agenda and this agenda. I just want to start off by saying I appreciate all Dr. Fosnach has done. Since stepping into the district, he's had some very tough issues to address, and this is another one of those tough issues. I'm not here tonight to talk about his performance, though. I'm here to talk about your guys' performance as elected officials. I feel for years we have continued to kick the can, and I want to rewind back to January 2023. Most of you were on this board, so I think you remember the conversation around OE12 pertaining to buildings. We had 4 administrators that came and spoke to you that night. They voiced concerns about their buildings. To me, it was a cry for help. We fast forward to 2026 now, and we are finally doing something about that. What worries me as a constituent and a community member is we have done nothing. We've heard very little about these buildings, but yet we recite our mission before every meeting. And I'm going to recite that again. It's to empower every learner to thrive through excellence, inclusion, innovation, and leadership. I ask you guys to take a good, hard, long look if we have done that in those 4 Title I schools that we're here asking for your help. Have we served those students and staff members equally? President Hager, I am not asking for a comment at the next meeting from the superintendent. Like I said, I think he does a great job. I'm speaking to you guys as elected leaders. I want a comment from you guys. Why have you failed those students and staff members? Why have you failed the community in not upkeeping those schools? I attended the forum last night at Century High, very poorly attended, but I think the people that showed up had some great things to say. I was in Dr. Fosnach's group, very small group, but it was a very diverse group. And I think that reflects the people that you guys represent. And I think oftentimes you guys forget that you represent Bismarck as a whole. Even the people like myself that are up here in opposition to you, you guys have no right to not hear us. You have no right at all. And that has been something that I have contested for years. I asked myself tonight, how have you guys passed OE12? How have you said that we were successful the last 3 years by passing OE12? It shouldn't have passed. because we have not met that standard and we have failed those people at those schools. So I ask you guys to take a good, long, hard look and ask yourselves, are you really public servants? Do you serve the community as a whole? Because we have failed. And I think there needs to be more conversations at this table about that so that we can learn from those failures and that we can move forward and that we can get involvement and input from the community. So again, I'm going to end with, I would like President Hager to comment on this at next meeting. I think the superintendent has done a phenomenal job, but I think that a lot of the mess that he has inherited has come before his tenure. You guys were here. Why were you not looking out for us? Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed. Moving on, item 5, monitoring district operations. R21, academic achievement mathematics. Dr. Costa?
You have the pleasure or displeasure of hearing this report from me as Dr. Johnson is out of the community today and away on a work assignment. So he's left me some really good notes to go through. So I will share with you our report tonight, R2 academic achievement in math, which we are bringing to you as marking it as making reasonable progress with exception. And we'll review those. But I do believe we're making strong progress. You'll see some of the results, particularly at the state level, that are showing very strong results. We probably have mixed results in a couple other assessments. And the area that is failing to make progress, which is 2.1.6, really deals with meeting projected growth in our subgroups. And our subgroups are showing some lagging, some poor indicators that I'll get into. So just going through the report, if you flip through to page 7, the first indicator deals with the percentage of students in grades 3 through 8 and 10 who were either advanced or proficient on the state assessment last spring when we took it. You can see as an average across the district, we are 6 percentage points above the state, which is good. And we've said this many times, when Bismarck is really one of every 9 students in the state, we buoy the average and then we surpass the average. So I think that's really strong. And if you look at each of the grade subgroups, again, I see strong performance there. For further information for the state assessment, we do provide you that broken out by subgroup. That's at the bottom of page 7. Those I think are strong or progressively improving results. My eye caught, and I will ask you to pay particular attention to the improvement that we've seen in our indigenous population. We continue to see that increasing, which is a positive number for the district, and I applaud our teams for focusing on that. Indicator 2, again, we're talking about, this is the new one. If you remember, we put in tracking novices because that was a state push to see what percentage of kids are responding results are in the novice category. And of course, you don't want to beat this number. Here you want to be below the state average. You want to be a smaller number. So again, we are outpacing the state in the number of kids that are still in that novice category. And for those that maybe haven't seen why we added this one, you can hear it from our new superintendent of public instruction, Mr. Bachmeyer, and his team, that really progressing, or if you're partially proficient, there's kids that are really close. They could be close to proficient. It's just missing a few bits of their knowledge that they had before they tested. So really keeping a focus on the novice. Those are the ones that are a long ways away. Those are the ones that are a little farther. So we want to keep our eye on getting them to even partially proficient is a good jump. And so keeping that novice portion of the results lower than state average is an achievement. Indicator 3 is the one that deals with ACT. Again, because not all the juniors are taking the ACT anymore, we now do a 10th grade NDA plus. Not every kid takes it. So our report now just shows you the percentage of the kids juniors who took, and I could think some some seniors that took the ACT this last year, what percentage are being identified as college ready? And that's meeting those minimum ACT scores in math to be qualify as college ready. So that was 55% of those 228 that took the exam. Now, when you get into indicator 4, now we switch over to a different assessment than the NDA plus. You're aware of that. This is seeing if kids are on grade level. Again, that's different between K1, who uses Ames Web, 2 through 8 that use the MAP, or 9, 10 that use the STAR assessment in the winter. Again, you can see that in all those areas, we're showing pretty good, really close to where we were last year, maybe slight improvement, slight decline, but we're really close to where we were reporting last year, except for that STAR assessment. You can see that's a new norm, so it changed the assessment. That's why it really is hard to even compare last year to this year because of that new norming. But then you get into indicator 5, and that's about that expected targeted growth. And I remind the board and listeners, at least for the MAP, and that's the test we use here, targeted growth is the target is 50%. The test is normed that 50% of kids will meet targeted growth and 50% of the kids will not meet targeted growth. And millions of testing samples drive that every year. So if we're hovering in that 50%, that's really probably a good target, even though, and that is our target, even though this year we're trailing just a little bit behind where we were last year. We have a few less kids meeting that targeted growth that we would desire to achieve. Our 8th graders hit it out of the park for some reason, but the rest of them are lagging behind. And the last indicator, indicator 6, is really that same metric, only we're looking at subgroups. And this is one where last year you can see we were really tracking well in all of our subgroups, and it is a wondering, it is a thought, like how did we go backwards again to some of our subgroups underperforming when it comes to meeting targeted growth. So that's something we need to look at. I would say within the report, our strengths, you heard about one of the strengths within the math work that we're doing from our team tonight. I mean, that work we're doing in our guiding coalitions, our secondary math guiding coalitions, and our elementary to really refine our standards, determine our essential standards, work on scales, work on common formative assessments is really important work. And I think that's what we need to continue. In our report, we talk about the need to continue that work. That is leading, I believe, will lead to really strong outcomes. So that's that instructional alignment that I think you guys were even referring to. We also, one of our strength areas or focus areas is then taking those gaps, or when we identify a gap in a student's performance, is then having really good math interventions in place and having those mapped out to help provide teachers and teams to say, okay, when there's a gap in this learning, what's the intervention to be applied so we can catch a kid up as quickly as possible. So that's really important, and I think something we need to continue on. So, yeah. I guess concluding statement, the bottom line that Dr. Johnson left me was, even though there's inconsistencies across the grades and some subgroups, I think we have some strong overall data as reported by the NDA plus. We need to do some target interventions, particularly in those areas with subgroups. We need to dig into that a little more and say, is there a reason why those are underperforming as compared to last year? And that inconsistency makes it a little hard to find a theme, I'm sure, but it's something that we need to continue to dig into. So again, we're making a recommendation tonight to you to say, provide you this report with making reasonable progress with exception.
Board members, any discussion, comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Lee?
Thank you, President Hager. With respect to R2 academic achievement, mathematics, I move that the board accepts the report as making reasonable progress with noted exceptions as presented.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher.
Lee?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Presky?
Yes.
Eastgate?
Yes.
Hager?
Yes. Next item. BSR 1, single point of connection. So this will be our semi-annual reading of this. Let me pull it up here. The superintendent is the board's sole point of connection to the operational organization. The board will direct the operational organization through the superintendent, functioning as the chief executive officer. Signing authority. The superintendent or their designee is authorized by the board to sign agreements, contracts, and other official documents on behalf of the board. This delegation of signing authority does not extend to matters explicitly reserved by the board. That concludes the reading of BSR 1, a single point of connection. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, President Hager. So this is another one of those policies that is really the heart of coherent governance, right? And one of those things we really debated before we put this in, but it's kind of, this is kind of the when we hand over the keys to the kingdom to the superintendent, and we govern the district by policy. It's also, I think, incredibly important that he's our sole point of connection and that we're not going around him for any matters. So I think this is invaluable to the way we govern, and it's stood the test of time, at least the last 6 years. So I would definitely move that we retain BSR 1, single point of connection.
And I would second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher.
Peterson,
Yes.
Preskey,
Yes.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Now to determine whether we're in compliance with exception or out of compliance. Mr. Lee.
So, every year I kind of struggle with this one because I feel like the superintendent should probably say if we're in compliance or not, how he feels. But given firsthand knowledge, I do believe we're in compliance, and I believe I would move that we determine we are in compliance.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher.
Preskey,
Yes.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Moving down to matters reserved for board action, professional services for the 2026 bond work. Dr. Fosnot.
President Hager, I'm just going to make a couple opening remarks, and I'll hand it off to Dr. Scher. I just want to be really clear with people. This is not about getting ahead of their choice. We're doing some work here that's really associated with the 2026 bond. This work is not about saying the vote on June 9th doesn't matter. Or projecting something into the future. We have a lot of people need to learn about what we're proposing, and then make their choice on June 9th. This is about really a construction schedule. And in North Dakota, winters are harsh, construction seasons are short, and for us to, if that would come to pass, and again, that's a huge if, this is all about leveraging so we're ready to go in June, July right away versus protracting that again and wasting several months after the election. Again, to take full advantage of a construction season, there's nothing lost here. There's no money involved. So we're just positioning ourselves for a decision later. And if it doesn't happen, we just go back to normal. So there's no loss. I just want to be really clear with that. I don't want to offend the public that we're making decisions absent of them. I think we're just making it so we're prepared, and we're waiting for them to make a decision in June. So with that, I would hand it off to Dr. Scher.
Thank you. I actually been practicing that same exact speech all day, but he did it much better than I could. The only thing I would add to Dr. Fosnot's comments are two things. First, related to the architect, there are multiple projects, multiple buildings. We all know that. So we need help from multiple firms. So I just want to make sure that that's publicly said. We'd hire multiple architects to move these forward. And then as far as the construction project, we feel that there's 4 projects that we would recommend construction management at risk, and then 24 projects that we would do with multiple prime design, bid, build. That gives a lot of smaller construction companies all sorts of opportunity in our community. So I think that's important to say publicly, that we're going to be able to spread the wealth to be able to get these projects done. And with that, I guess I totally agree with Dr. Fosnot. I would answer any questions that the board would have.
Mrs. Peterson.
Thanks, President Hager, and then Dr. Scher and Dr. Fosnot for kind of putting together these recommendations. I think throughout this whole process, as we've been not only engaging with the community, but also in board workshops and then in hearing from the report outs from the Operational Excellence Committee. I mean, this isn't, this is sort of a marathon, not a sprint when you make these decisions. These have been brought up in terms of kind of the long-range facility planning for quite some time as an option that was maybe on the table as we looked at sort of the compounding efforts of all of these projects and the expense and so on. So I just appreciate the opportunity and the forethought, because if we would wait until the vote one way or the other and then went out for bid, just knowing how the procurement process works, we would maybe not even, we wouldn't be able to get started. So I just appreciate the intentionality of all of these things, but yet still wanting to make it really clear that we need to hear from the voters and whether or not the voters are on track with this. But even that being said, I think there are some of those projects that might have to be moved forward in other things, and it puts us in a position where we can be kind of poised for success. So anyway, I just wanted to say that I don't have any questions other than just to clarify. What can you just maybe answer the question for me and for the public about a little bit about the construction management at risk for just those 4 projects compared to other projects? Can you clarify that a little bit so I kind of understand the different scope of that and why that would be needed for those projects and not those other projects?
Sure. There was a couple thought processes. One is the complexity of the project. So you'll see there are larger projects where we got a lot of tie-in with existing building. That gives the district some assurance that the risk is really managed by our construction manager. So that was it. And you'll notice that they're all larger projects, Century, Myrie, Moses, and Solheim. They're kind of over $7 million, and they involve additions and tie-ins. So that was kind of the thought. And then on the other ones, we could do construction management at risk, but sometimes I think it's all about we need to do what's best for our community. And I think doing it this way is probably the best bang for our buck. Hopefully we'll get a lot of smaller contractors excited and be able to do some projects for the district. And so I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you.
Mr. Lee.
Thank you, President Hager. So I've kind of touched on this before, but with this referendum and giving it back to the community, it's really asking the community, what do you want from your public schools? And this is a big number. That's not lost on me. So I think if the community does give us the power to do this, they're giving us great power, and with that comes great responsibility. So that's not lost on me as we go forward. If this passes, we have to kind of keep our eye on the ball and be responsible stewards of the resources we have. When we talk about that big number, the second point is I talk about this a lot, but there's a macroeconomics to it. We're hiring local contractors as much as we can for most of this. I would say if not all of it, or we'll try to anyways through the RFQ. But so you think of this big number, this $128 million, that gets reinvested back into the community, local companies, local families benefiting, raises the tax base, more income tax revenue, helps with all of our revenues, and it goes into other people's pockets, and it supports a lot of people. So it's not just a number that is a one and done and goes away. It gets recirculated in the community, and I think that's an important point to think of, because when we think of these big numbers, it's kind of hard to put it, to get your mind around it, especially for the individual, right? It's more money than any of us will ever see in our lifetime. But when you look at how it's an investment in the school district, in the facilities, going directly towards kids, and then it supports a lot of community members, I think there's a lot of good things about a project like this. It's not something we want to do all the time. It's not something we have done all the time. But as I've stated before, the rules kind of changed around subs and the 3% cap, and that's fine. But the rules have changed. We needed to come up with a new game plan, and this is part of that new game plan. So thank you.
Well said. Thanks, Mr. Lee. Mr. Eastgate?
With those comments, and thank you, Mr. Lee, I agree very much with all that. I would make a motion that we would direct administration to move forward with a request for qualifications for architects and construction managers.
And I would second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Scher.
Eastgate,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Presky,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Moving on to B, board member school visits. I know we've got a few still out there. I know Mr. Eastgate has one, and I always enjoy Mr. Eastgate's school visits.
Thank you, President Hager. I appreciate that. I did have a chance to finish up my school visits, but I'll be reporting them spaced out over the next month, month and a half, so we can continue to give the proper time to all of them, I guess we'll say. But I'd like to report tonight on my visit, actually not necessarily a school, but certainly one of our buildings and an important one, the facilities and transportation. So I had a chance to schedule and meet with Mr. Jason Middlestedt, who's been with our district for quite a while and does a phenomenal job. Jason knows, he's right there with Mr. Scher and just knowing about everything going on in all of our buildings. And really at the beginning of all this, what I guess I'd like to say is that thank you to the staff at Facilities and Transportation. So thank you. I don't think they get maybe to hear it quite enough, because when we think about Bismarck Public Schools, we think about teachers who we should certainly thank, and they're the face of education. But, you know, the people that we have that also are there, whether it be driving the bus, when a kid first gets on a bus, their school day starts right then and there. When we have somebody, a plumber, electrician, an HVAC person that's making sure our schools and facilities are ready to rock. So, you know, we're talking about a lot of these things with the bond referendum, but there are ongoing things that these staff are doing to make sure that we still have school going on today. We're always hoping to improve it, and that's the point of the bond, but that they're doing just a great job. So I really appreciate it. Mr. Middlestedt was excited to share with me at first. I will say that they are, F&T is healthy, and we are staffed healthily right now. I'm not going to say fully staffed, because he said don't say it too loud, because we're always looking to get people. We always have spots to fill. It seems like that it's kind of rotates through a little bit, but that is still a good thing going on right now in facilities and transportation, that we have a good staffing. It says good things about our leadership and our ability to retain some of those employees. It's also can be a challenge, because we're in the public school sector and we're competing with private enterprise out there that are trying to pay journeymen and HVAC professionals, and that's not always easy. And so a lot of times we're getting some folks who they're super experienced and maybe they just want a way to give back, and hopefully we can continue to find some of that. So logistically, Jason talked about how, you know, he really has to have a 40,000 foot view of our district, as board members do often too. You know, we have principals who have a chance, and their job is to advocate for their building and what their educators need and their kids need. And we have a lot of those in our district. And so it's Jason and his staff to make sure that we're doing the best we can for all of those. And again, as we talk about, we're stretching a dollar a lot, and we're doing the best we can. But it's their job to do that. And through the bond stuff, again, I talked to him about that a little bit and how that impacts the current budget and what we're doing. And he just said, as we've talked about, the building fund we try to address things like paint and flooring and some of just those ongoing needs that we know we do need. I would say that as a board member, as I look at the budget and look at how it applies, and we've talked about it, Mr. Scher presented on, is that our repairs line item, man alive, that thing goes away quick. And again, this comes back. It's going to keep getting brought up a little bit, but that's where this bond comes up too. Is that I know I've already had many community members just ask about why, you know, are you guys maintaining? What are you doing for some of the deferred maintenance that we talk about? It's like, yes, we are. We are addressing those things. We're making sure that kids have a climate-controlled classroom the best we can in all of our buildings. But that, you know, if it's something that we need to increase that line item, and I know that can be hard, because if you increase that line item, we're taken from somewhere else in the district. But we certainly get through it, and I know, having talked to Mr. Scher about that as well, that we find it when we need it. When something pops up, we do our best to find it wherever we can to make sure we're addressing those things that pop up, but just so we can continue to get ahead of it. And part of that is because, you know, if you didn't know this, but boilers and HVAC, and, you know, they're not that exciting. They're incredibly necessary for us to educate kids and to have members of our community in, but they're not exciting. It's not as exciting as a new learning space for kids. It's not as exciting as even a gymnasium, an auditorium, or any of those places where our teachers get to spend the time educating kids. So those things, but they are important. I meant to mention too, man, for a calling card for BPS, you know, any business in town, to have somebody like Dar at the front desk, she's just great. And had what she called her grandma's candies up front, but allowed me to steal some from her. So I really appreciated that. Thank you. So anyway, talking about some of the maintenance, then we talked about through some of the biggest challenges come up, budget. How do we replace those funds when they do need to go out? And then we talked about staffing, but that is an ongoing thing. That is an ongoing thing that we have all the time, looking for staff and good staff and making sure that we have people in those positions who know what they're doing and they're getting after it. And just making sure that we always have that good employability going on in our F&T. Because as he said, we get some of those folks and they're there and they've been there a long time. And then if they're getting close to retirement, it can be just tough to get them replaced for some of that. So overall, I was really impressed just with the amount of stuff they have to do. I told them, please let us know if there's ever a chance as board members. I've been a part of I think it's a hot dog or hamburger meal every year, I think, right, Darren? I'm looking at you because I know you're there and help out with that. If there's ever those little things that we can do to help out, let us know because we can get some FaceTime school visits. We get to see a lot of educators and principals. It'd be really great to see some of our folks who are out there making sure the doors are opening up. Beyond that, I think what Jason was proud to share with me is that the employees' morale is really good and that it feels good to be here. Is what he said at BPS. And I asked him that because obviously at the beginning of this year we had some tough stuff. I hate to even bring it up again, but with some of our John, please don't. But with some of the busing and working through bell times, and Jason, I'd written down just what he said. Their job, keep doing what they're doing, but making it better and better. And he said he really feels like him and his team have tried their best to keep making it better and better. And I certainly see that in them and what they put out there all the time. So. Yeah, and he just said the other thing with the bond, what his hope is with that too, is that there's not a brand new building built. It's not there's not Elk Ridge being built. We don't have a new CTE right this moment. And so it's going to give them a chance for them to get their staff. We talked about hiring local. We also have our team at F&T that can step in and do some of this as well. So just catching up on some of the maintenance in the district that's already part of the ongoing maintenance that we're trying to keep up, and so they're excited actually for that to be able to jump in and be more involved on that as well. So really appreciate it. I thank Jason, his whole staff, and everybody behind the scenes at BPS. So thank you for hearing out my school visit today.
Thanks, Mr. Eastgate. I don't think we have any others, so that is it for tonight. Item 7 is the consent agenda. What are the wishes of the board?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
I would second that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Scher.
Lee,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bresky.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Eastgate,
Yes.
Hager.
Yes. Item 8, Superintendent's Report, the 2026 bond update. Dr. Fosnot.
Yeah, this is probably going to, I intend to leave this on my reports for at least the next 8 weeks, try to address questions. I'd like to use this time as we continue to roll out our messages and informing the public, and just as we garner questions, and we have added some of those questions to our FAQ. I would encourage people to go to bismarckschools.org/2026 bond. It's right at the front of the Bismarck website or Bismarck School website. And we just try to keep adding layers of information on that. I know even after the slide deck that we showed last night at our first community forum is now posted on there as of today, so people can look at that, and we're going to try to do the presentation online. So just keep checking into that if you are interested and you've been looking for information. Don't just discard it, because we're going to keep coming back to it and layering on more information as we learn more. But tonight really is about me backing up a bit. I'm going to just begin with, I'd like to use tonight to address really, all those questions are the same. We've been getting them in our forums and when we're meeting with groups. Doesn't matter if it's Aquinas or those groups that I've met with or online. A lot of people are asking, I think the question that was raised tonight is, what's the path forward? How are we going to not let this happen again, that we have this mounting deferred maintenance sitting in front of us? So I want to first on the next slide, Mr. Barnhart, just say I'm sorry, because I tried to address this on March 9th, I think at the last meeting, the meeting before you moved for the resolution. My apologies is I probably didn't call it out clear enough so people could see it and hear it and understand it, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about how we don't let this happen again. So I'm going to back up in time. I'm going to use some slides from my slide deck then, and this is one of them, and just kind of replay that with a little more information if you will bear with me. So let's talk about how our plan that we presented to our Dr. Scher and I about how to stay on top of this was really, if you remember, it's a big ask. There's a lot. So our recommendation was twofold. We think we need to go to the voters and see if they would support kind of helping us at this time to do that. But the first part of that equation was, here's our path to deal with the greens. And we were talking about dealing with the greens because there's $13 million in those two green categories, and putting a focus on, let's keep on top of that so that 10 years from now we don't have oranges and reds and stuff in our categories. So if you go to the next page, I just want to talk about the building fund. There's been a lot of talk about the building fund, and the building fund is a separate tax collection bucket, different than the general fund that we have been levying for some time. This year, that tax collection is 9.86 mils. It's generating 6.92 million, this present collection, what we're in right now, bless you, by the way. And the building fund has been around in Bismarck Public Schools since 1957. So that was a voter-approved levy in 1957. And by statute, if you look at the code, a school could levy up to 20 mils. But you're limited to whatever the voters approve. So voters in Bismarck only approve 10 mils. So that's our cap. Now, I would say, if you look at that slide and you go, Jeff, you just said 10 mils, it's only 9.86. It's been 10 mils consistently across the history of BPS until this year. And that goes back to what Board Member Lee was talking about, the 3% caps. So we were only allowed to increase whatever we asked for last year by 3%. You get a new number, and then if valuations change, particularly valuations increase more than 3%, that drives the mills down because it takes less mills to generate that requested dollars. So this year, actually, mills are dropped below 10, again, because of the 3% cap limitations that are now imposed. Inside of that, which the fixed costs, I do want to point out that really the first one is very fixed, Elk Ridge and Silver Ranch. This present year, there's a payment of $1.89 million that's going to come out of the building fund. So out of that 6.92, right out of the top. It comes right off the top because the board, different board, but the BPS board at that time when we built those two schools did not go to taxpayers to ask for a tax increase. They bonded out of the building fund to pay it off over 20 years. So we are paying that off every year. We're in the midst of that payment schedule, and it comes out of the proceeds generated by the building fund. And that I'm going to come back to that later because it does impact what's remaining. And the roof replacement, even though we could probably say, well, don't repair roofs, we do have a roof schedule. I think we talk about 2 million square feet of roofs that we take care of in the district. They are on a schedule, and we are paying a portion of that repair every year. I think you just approved one in your consent agenda for roof repair tonight, and we are budgeting $600,000 out of the building fund to help cover that this year. So on the next slide, I would like, just for information, I know this is really busy, and for those of you who can't see it online, I do have it going on social media so you can see it better here in a few minutes, or I think it's 7 o'clock or whatever. It's supposed to automatically happen. So what I would want to just share is, again, what I was talking about was the present collection, but if we go back in time a year to 2024-25, this is our total revenue and total expenditures for the building fund, just to characterize how we're using it. We have had a lot of questions about what that is. So last year we could levy all 10 mills, and that levy, along with some other special assessments, you can see in the green category, you again will not be able to read it, was $6.1 million, okay? The big blue chunk to the left of the left circle is grant money. 2025 is an anomaly year because the district received the CTE ESSER funds from North Dakota Career and Tech Ed to help pay for the Silver Ranch Career Academy. Those dollars were locked into CTE, and that's what I'm trying to represent in the box in the middle, that the district got those funds and really could only spend them on one thing, and that was the CTE build at Silver Ranch. So you'll see that corresponding blue box to the right side of the right graphic to say this is what we spent, $6.4 million on the Silver Ranch construction. out of the building fund. But I would then point out to people, if you look at the remainder of that circle on the right, and you think about, well, that's just normal expenditure then, it's everything else. It's not the special funds. You can see Silver Ranch and Elk Ridge take a pretty good chunk of what's left. They are a commitment that the district made, and it is impacting what we have available to do, like we said, the maintenance. And that's why when we were in early March, when we said, we can keep up and attack the greens, but the capacity to deal with a lot of the other stuff really was beyond even the full collection you could have in the building fund. So that's why our recommendation was using building fund, using a little general fund, attack the greens, and then go to the voters for what was left. That's just FYI for patrons who want to get nerdy with numbers and see where our money is going. So again, on the next slide, our recommendation for the future and how not to get in this trouble again is let's address within the next 3 to 5 years the big lift, some of these deferred maintenance and programmatic issues that we're informing the community about. We get on top of those, as kind of Mr. Eastgate said, as meeting with Mr. Middlestead, then okay, we can keep on top of the rest with about a $4.5 to $5 million expenditure every year coming out of the building fund that we can use to stay on top of that. And if you look at 13 million that's in the greens, okay, that's 4 years, 5 years, we can attack those. We can keep on top of them. I'm going to put a caveat in there because let me back up before I give you the caveat. On the next page, I want to be really clear. We're trying to communicate this in the slides. This slide is one that we are in every community meeting you're going to go to that I've been doing for the last month and will do for the next month. We kind of use this slide, and again, that's probably poor communication on my part. We put that little white box in the green categories with the number to reflect that's our path forward. That's how we're going to keep on top of this. We probably just need to do a better job of calling that out. And so again, you have my apologies if that's not the case. But again, if you see that in the future, that's our commitment to keeping on top of it, trying to stay ahead the best we can. I'd like to talk just a little bit about what the district's done, and this is part of the same question, like what has the district been doing to keep on top of all this work? This is a slide deck that we've used previously, again, I believe in early March. So on the next page, I just want to call people's attention to what the district did in each of these projects, and none of these required a tax increase. BPS didn't go to you to ask for a tax increase. We used either building fund building fund or a levy against the building fund, like Elk Ridge and Silver Ranch, or we use ESSER funds. So those were all, didn't require any tax impact on us as taxpayers. And that's $77 million in the last 10 years that we've been investing in facilities and work. Some of these we might question, like, why was that necessary? The one I would add on, the three I would talk about, and one's not reflected on here, but I'm going to add it, is in 2023, we used ESSER funds for legacy. The ESSER funds were about $10 million. So out of $25 million in ESSER funds, 10 of that went to making sure legacy got built up. And then we used $3 million additional dollars out of ESSER that next year to build out the addition in Lincoln. And people have questioned, well, there was $3 million also to ICE. There is. I would add that line, that there was $3 million. It's not our facility. It's kind of the parks facility. That's why it's not on here. But we used $3 million of ESSER funds out of the 25 to invest in a portion of the cost for the ICE. It was a small portion to actually get it built, but the district did commit to a public-private partnership to make that work. And again, just trying to reflect that when people say, well, you have been doing nothing, I would contend that I think we've been doing something. We've been doing something without really asking taxpayers to fit the bill. That being said, I'm going to flip the switch and say, even with good planning, and I'm going to use a quote from Mike Tyson on the next slide, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the nose. You can all have a good plan, until you get popped in the face, and then your plan has to change. And I think this is true not only with the school, but I would say, I think at one time in my history, my wife and I said, hey, let's redo the kitchen. Let's my house in Ellendale at the time, let's redecorate the kitchen, bring it up to snuff. That was until one of my children ran their car into a pole. and then I got hit in the mouth and plans had to change. So I think those things that happen in our homes, in our own families, happen in schools too. So this list represents getting punched in the nose. You have a really good plan, and then all of a sudden, oh, the Century parking lot needs to be updated because I can't even say I drove on it when it was poor, but I hear it was in really rough condition. That's over $1 million to get that fixed. You heard about one last year dealing with Grimsrud and a water main leak. You'd think, well, that's not a big deal. It's almost $200,000 to fix that. It's not cheap. And it's coming out of the building fund. It's coming out of general fund. It's coming out of monies that we have to help pay that off. And so we have to respond. We have to try to adapt when those things happen. And I think I recently reported on the water leak at Legacy High School, right? So we're in the midst of doing that as well, repairing that. That's one of those that'll pop you in the mouth, and we got to readjust and replan. So I think we have it's hard to predict the future. I am in no way Nostradamus. I cannot guess what's going to happen around the corner. Someone will probably criticize that I did the wrong thing 6 years from now. But I do think this puts us on better footing and better path forward, again, as we seek community support for what we're proposing. But I think I just wanted to be clear and help people with that. Hopefully that can help address many of the questions that the community's had as we've been getting around the community and talking to people. So I'd stand for any questions you might have.
Board members, questions, comments? Okay, not seeing anything. So thank you, Dr. Frostnut. With that, all agenda items have been considered. I declare this meeting adjourned.